Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the best character origin in Baldur's Gate 3 for a good aligned playthrough. So, there's good choices and bad choices in the game, and some characters just make more sense to be good aligned versus bad aligned. Also, some of them have some pretty cool interactions that are unique to their own character origin, which I'll be exploring in this video. And the first thing we got here is just a regular old Tav. Now, what's nice about playing as just your own custom character is being able to kind of create your own story, and that's exactly what Dungeons and Dragons is all about, is inserting yourself into a role-playing world and getting to create your own fantasy depiction of yourself. And that's exactly what you get to play as just the regular old create a character. So what's nice about this one is you get a lot of freedom in influencing the other characters' stories. So this can be a really good one for your first time playing through. I recommend just going with a regular old Tav for your first time playing. I am a huge fan of the DarkUrge playthrough, but I do think that it is almost a better choice for your subsequent playthroughs if you want to be doing it multiple times. If you only plan to play Baldur's Gate once, DarkUrge feels like the true main character, but I'll get to that in a moment. Whereas just the regular old Tav, you get to create your own idea of what you want to be, if you want to be a good aligned character or a bad aligned character. Now, I don't think that playing as an evil Tav makes a whole lot of sense because you're here to be the hero of Baldur's Gate, whereas the DarkUrge just seems like the correct choice for if you're going to be going with an evil playthrough. But even the DarkUrge is a good aligned playthrough. So I'd have to say the Tav is definitely an S tier to A tier because it's getting to put yourself in that role-playing mindset that you're going to save the city. So if you're going for a good aligned playthrough, it just makes sense to play as a Tav. Make it feel like it's someone like yourself or whatever fantasy kind of elements you want to add in. If you want to play as a tiefling or what high elf, etc. But yeah, being able to put yourself in this role-playing world and create your own story is just part of the fun of Baldur's Gate 3. But getting into the other side of it, the DarkUrge. Now, you don't have to play as the Dragonborn. You can make this look like however you want it to look like. Although I think the DarkUrge as a Dragonborn just feels right. This is the only scene that's voice acted by the DarkUrge. Oh, there's one other scene in the game, but this is a really cool playthrough, especially for a good aligned character because they just want to kill, and you can actually resist the DarkUrge. It does have a completely different story, but what I think works best about the DarkUrge is not only is it an evil aligned character, but you can overcome your urges, especially early on in the game. There's only one character that you end up actually killing if you want to, but you can go full in on a good aligned playthrough. And it starts to feel kind of like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 where you're a ball spawn as well. So I think the DarkUrge is in a fantastic playthrough if you want to go in a good aligned playthrough, because it's very rewarding once you get to Act 3, because your character is going to have a lot of involvement in the plot. Not to get into any of the spoilers related to that, but yeah, the DarkUrge does have a very rewarding playthrough if you go with a good aligned, if you're going to be good aligned, because not only do you have a lot of plot relevance, but you're also becoming a hero that overcomes adversity, and that's, I think, what makes a good story. To me, it honestly seems like the DarkUrge is the true canon playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. Now, one thing that's funny is if you play as any of the other characters that's not the DarkUrge, you can actually find the DarkUrge in Act 3, so they're dead, spoiler alert, but yeah, that, I guess that's not really any spoilers, because they have no plot relevance if you don't play as them. But if you do play as them and you go a good route, I actually think this is a very rewarding playthrough, so I'm actually going to put the DarkUrge into the S tier as well. I think it's a better story than the Tav, but I'm putting your own creative character in the S tier because, I mean, it's probably realistically like an A tier, but I'm going to put it S tier because some people just want to roleplay as a hero, and that allows you to do that as your own custom created character. Same thing with the DarkUrge, but you do have the DarkUrge overriding a lot of your actions early on, but you can resist them. So next we got Asterion. Now, I think Astarion's a great character to play alongside. I think he's awesome to have in your party. But one thing about playing, or two things about playing as Asterion, you don't get to hear his dialogue options, one, and that's one of the big reasons to have him in your party, is he's voiced really well by Neil Newbon, so great voice acting. But two, I feel like it doesn't make sense for him to, if you're going to be doing a good aligned playthrough, because Asterion he's been through a lot. Like, as you can see from his little character bio here, after 200 years of serving a cruel master of vampire spawn, Asterion is finally free to walk in the sun, free to chase power, and free to take revenge. That right there just sounds like an evil playthrough. And if you're playing as him, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to do good things. He approves highly every time you do something evil. His story, he's really mostly concerned about Cazador in Act 3, so it's kind of self-serving, but if you're going to play as him, it feels right to be an evil Asterion, because when you can make him ascend or stay as a vampire spawn. The vampire spawn Asterion is great, but it doesn't feel right if you... It feels right if you play as a character and convince him that's the correct way to do it, because that's kind of how you prevent him from becoming a ascended Asterion. But for an evil playthrough, he's great, but I don't feel like he is that awesome as a good aligned character. Not to say that he can't be a hero, because he's been through a lot, and it'd be a great story of overcoming that. If you want to role play it that way, by all means. But I just feel like you're missing out a lot with his voice acting, one. And two, he's free he wants to chase power and get revenge. And that's kind of the core of his story. He also doesn't have, like, of all the origin characters, he has least plot relevance. Like Lael, the Gith are against the Mind Flayers. Will is the most drawn into the story himself. Gail's got his own motives. Carlock has her own motives and reasons to be wanting to fight against Gortosh, and even Shadowheart. But I think that Asterion, I would probably put him into the B tier to C tier. I just don't feel like he is meant to be a good playthrough unless you're playing as someone else and convincing him and helping him oversee his difficulties with everything that he has been through. So I think Asterion is one of my favorite characters. So I would say he's good if you want to convince him to be good, but otherwise he's probably better off as an evil character. Next, we got Lael. Now, Lael is an interesting one because she actually does have a lot of plot relevance. So, Lael was raised ready for a life amongst the stars, mercilessly conquering the cosmos as a Githyanki warrior soldier. Grounded, she must deal with a world she does not understand and find a way to serve her people in a plane that despises her militant kin. So, Lael is another character similar to Asterion that, not that she's evil aligned, it's just the Gith have their own kind of mentalities, and she's almost been brainwashed into believing it. It feels correct if you play as like your own character and help her oversee her difficulties and what she's been through, because again, she has been brainwashed into believing certain things. So for you to play as her and go into a good aligned playthrough is a little bit hard to make sense of, because she's been through so much. She's the youngest companion as well, or youngest origin character, but she's been taught to live her life a certain way. And if you go with all the good decisions, it just feels out of character for Lael. Like you're just self-inserting yourself in. And at that point, you're probably better off playing a DarkUrge Gith which would kind of be a funny story, but even just like a Gith player created character. And then you can also help her overcome her difficulties with the Gith. And I feel like that would be a more not correct, but a more redeeming good playthrough. So Lael is an awesome character, and she has amazing character development, but it's your own character that helps her come to terms with her own raising and how she's been like taught life. So I would say that Lael is probably the same as Asterion. Like, I'm going to put her in the B tier. Not to say she's a bad character to play as, don't get me wrong there. I just feel like of all the characters, Asterion and Lael, they have their own motives, and to go into it and play as a good playthrough just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for what they've been through their entire life. Like, Asterion had 200 years of suffering, and he has his own motives to be evil. Lael, much the same, and you don't have a character that kind of talks to you into changing your ways like you do if you have them as companions. So they're great companions, S-tier companions, but the only thing is, if you play as them, it just feels out of character for them to go good aligned. But next, we got ourselves one of the goodest of good characters with Will. Now, there's a lot of people that just don't like Will. I think Will's a great character, and he's the most underrated character in this game. What's great about Will is he's already a hero. Like, he's the most good aligned character that we have. He's a lawful good character. He only signed the deal with Mizora to be able to save his father and the city. So he has his reasonings for why he's a warlock, but known as the Blade of Frontiers, Will uses his magic to fell the monsters and devils menacing the Sword Coast. In a moment of desperation, he accepted an offer of greater power, forcing him into an infernal game he is struggling to play. Now, Will's character doesn't have a whole lot compared to the others if you have him as a companion. He does have a lot of plot relevance. He is probably the most plot relevant character in the game because his father is the Duke of Baldur's Gate, and there's a whole ton of reasons why he's important to the story. But you don't really get that if you have... Well, you do get it if you have as a companion, but I think if you play as Will, you actually get to see a lot more of that, because on your first long rest, Mizora shows up, and you have her at your camp, and she gives a lot of extra context into the character of Will that we just don't get if you play as him and have him as a companion. I actually think that Will is probably, of all origin characters that we have here, he's like the true, I guess, good aligned playthrough character. Whereas maybe like DarkUrge or Asterion are more so the evil aligned characters. Will is a great guy, and he fits well if you want to be doing a good aligned playthrough, because his story makes the most sense in the greater good of Baldur's Gate 3. You can also go this route and take out Carlock if you want to keep him looking just like this without the tiefling horns. So you do have that option as well, but I think that Will is an awesome character for a good aligned playthrough, just because of his heavy plot relevance, unique content that he gets that helps you understand him as a character that you don't get as much of if you play with him in your party. I feel like they don't have as much content for him, especially in his romance too. That's one thing when I was looking into all the romances of the characters, is he is lacking severely in terms of a lot of different content that the other characters just happen to have. So I would have to say Will is definitely an S tier choice for a good line playthrough, because he is a good aligned character, and he means well. He's always trying to do the right thing, even if it means signing a pact with a a tiefling, a devil, to be able to get his powers. So I do think that Will is probably the iconic good guy character in this game. So yeah, some people don't like him. I think that he is a great character. If you want to play as someone different than yourself and you're looking for an origin, he's a great choice. Next, we got Gail. Now, Gail is a great character, and I think Gail is good in the reason that he can go either way. So, Gail's wizarding prowess once earned him the love of Mystra, the goddess of magic, until his ambition led him to the brink of his catastrophe. Now, Gail has a very complex and deep story. He can go either way, and I think, as a whole, Gail is good aligned, but he's kind of like a chaotic neutral. You can have him become the god of ambition, and that's the route that he typically plays if you don't really put too much into his own story and character development. So he does want power. He wants the crown of curses for himself, and that's not like, that's kind of like an Iron Man dilemma. He's like an anti-hero. He's a hero, yes, but he wants things for his own self-serving good. I do think that he does have a redeeming good playthrough, so I'm not going to put him, obviously, like in the tier that Asterion and Lael are in, because he can have you can play as Gail and have a really good playthrough and have it make sense with the lore, because he is trying to overcome some of his difficulties. But you can also get that if you play as a character and have him in your party. I think Gail's pretty hilarious too to have for dialogue options. Same as Asterion, like you miss out on their dialogue. Whereas Will, I feel like Will's dialogue's good, but he just doesn't have anything unique setting him out and apart from others. So yeah, Gail is probably, this is tough. I would say he's probably an A tier for a good playthrough. He's also good if you want to go for an evil playthrough, and the reason because Gail has a ton of unique content. So at first long rest, you get Terra to show up at your camp. That's a Tressym cat that shows up. But in addition to that, if you go for a good aligned playthrough, you can also actually, if you go for an evil aligned playthrough, you can get him to ascend, and it gives you level 9 spells. You only can really use them at the end camp, so it's not something you're going to be playing around with and doing a bunch of turning people into Tressyms and just killing them and telekinesis, things like that. But as a whole, I would say that Gail is pretty good aligned, and he'd make for a good like a good playthrough if you want to be going the good aligned route. But I just feel like creating your own character, the DarkUrge, resisting the urge, and Will are better choices, so I'm going to put him into the A tier. However, next we got Carlock, and I think that she's actually a really great good aligned playthrough, somewhat similar to Will. Like, she does have quite a bit of plot relevance too, compared to some of the other characters, because she fought in Avernus. So Carlock escaped 10 years of service in the Hells with nothing but the axe in her back and the infernal engine blazing furiously where her heart used to be. So she was basically just a soldier in the battlefields of Avernus, and while that is obviously not something that's super good aligned, she wants to be good. She desperately wants to be a good character, and you see that throughout her whole playthrough. The only characters that you can lose for being evil and attacking the Grove are Will and Carlock. They don't let you do that. So I would say that she does want to be a good character, and it shows through her actions throughout the game. And it just makes sense if you're going to be playing as Carlock that she wants to do good. She has a history with Enver Gortash, who is one of the characters in Act 3. I won't get into the specifics of that just for spoilers' sake, but she has heavy plot relevance too. Not as much as Will, I would say, but she still has quite a bit of plot relevance. So I would say as a whole that she'd be a great character. Also, another cool thing about playing as Carlock is she has a bunch of different voice options, or she actually has her own voice dialogue. Now, if you play as any of these characters, you lose out on their dialogue. They don't talk as they would if you had them in your party. But Carlock actually has some unique dialogue where she talks to herself. And I think that that's awesome. There's only like 10 or so lines in the game, and you're not going to see every single line in a playthrough, so you do miss out on it. There is some funny moments in like Act 1 when you have that steamy scene. If you don't have it, she'll kind of like self-insert herself and talk about it. So it's pretty funny if you're going for a good line character, because she wants to be a good character. So yes, she is a barbarian, but she wants to do what's right. So I'd have to say Carlock is an S tier choice as well. Finally, we have ourselves God's favorite princess, Shadowheart. So Shadowheart's a great character because, I guess we'll read her bio here just to give you guys a bit of an in-depth look. So she willingly undertook a ritual to remove her memories in order to protect the secrets of her fellow Shar worshippers. Loss and pain are sacred to her, but her faith is now being tested like never before. So the Lady of Lost, Shar, is who she worships. And all through Act 1 and 2, she is crazy obsessed with Shar. So that, I mean, if you played through the game, you'll know that she does not stop talking about them. She is super obsessed. She also lost her memory, so that's one thing that you could kind of role play it. I don't want to put her in the same tier as Lael and Asterion because, yes, she does have kind of similar motives. Like, she lost her memories, but you can also, that's the classic anime trope where they lost memories and they start to come back. Kind of same thing as did the DarkUrge with less killing, but with Shadowheart, she has some moments where she does try to be good aligned. Now, if you are playing as anyone but Shadowheart and you get to Act 2, if you have decent approval with her, she'll go the good route most times. So it kind of is hinted that she does have like some of her memories starting to come back and she starts to realize that she is a good character at her core, but it also doesn't make the perfect sense for her to come into Act 2 and then be like, oh, actually, I don't like Shar anymore. After being super excited to go to the Shar Temple, I've watched a lot of people play through his origin Shadowheart, and I've been curious how they'll go. I feel like it is better to go evil alignment with Shadowheart, as that's kind of like what her true nature with being a Shar worshipper is. But I also think that you can roleplay it that she does have some of her memories come back, and she's starting to become a good aligned character again. So with that, I think that Shadowheart's probably A tier, probably lower than Gail, because Gail's ambitious. Obviously, that comes into play. As I said, he's like the Iron Man. He is a good character at his core, but he has his own motives for why he wants to do it. It's not money. It's more so he wants the Crown of Karsus so he can get Mistress Favor again. But yeah, I think that the best good aligned characters are making your own character. Honestly, like playing as your own Tav and being the hero of Baldur's Gate is highly rewarding. I think that that's, for a first-time player, is the way to go. But also, the DarkUrge, I think, personally, is the true good aligned playthrough, going to resist the urge. It shows that you're able to overcome it, and I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but there's a ton of content for the good aligned DarkUrge, so that is something there. Also, Will is the textbook good guy, and same Carlock, she wants to do good, so I would say those are the best for a good aligned playthrough, but honestly, you can play with any of these and you'll have an amazing time. You just have to do some mental gymnastics to justify why Lael would give up on her Gith roots, as well as Asterion being a good aligned character when he's been through so much. But there it is, the best good aligned origin characters in Baldur's Gate 3 ranked on a tier list. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.